That's Christ. Was Christ greater than George?
He's greater than George. He's greater than Shaka.
This death, hanging from a tree near weeping old women, is not worthy of a king.
No, it's not.
How did he come to die?
He was betrayed by those that he loved the most.
Yes. It is a mistake to love, especially for a king. Why are you ever silent? Are you afraid? Do you bow down before this dead King Christ?
No. Christ is not my king.
Ah, you have doubts that Christ is the King of all kings.
Yes, Nkosi, I have my doubts.
So you two belong to different tribes?
Yes.
And King Jesus came from your tribe?
Not from my tribe. From his tribe.
The ways of you wise are a dark mystery. Those warriors near the tree with equals, were they part of his regiments?
No, we have no regiments. Only 12 men, unarmed.
Yet you call him King of Kings, greater than Shaga.
Yeah, of course.
Why?
Look at his lips. They're moving. He's saying, "Forgive them, Baba, for they know not what they do."
Forgive. How can anyone expect to rule with such a foolish strategy?
Many are of the same opinion.
And what does my brother George think?
George, his people, his country, people all over the world, they worship that king as the divine sovereign sent by the ancestors to bring peace.
But, Nkosi, I know very well that King Jesus had great power.
Well, whether my friends Zacharias or you know it or not, Christ is the Lord of the whites. He is the Lord of the Zulus. He is the Lord of all men. He is the Son of the heavens.
Do you derive your powers from him?
He is power.
With Christ in your heart, you're stronger than all the regiments on earth.
If Christ is power, why did he not save himself?
Christ had to die so that the heavens would pass that power on to me. The youth they've given me is proof that I've inherited that power. Heavens belong to Zulu, and Shaga is their son. If the swallows wish to be my friends, they must remember that in this land, there is only one Kosiyama Kosi, only one King of Kings. Shaga.
Welcome to Paradigm Shift TV 314. This is your brother, Piankhi Ptah Mutulu, Nefer Amun Ra, aka Ikosi Yamakosi. And for those who don't know what that means, that's Zulu for King of Kings. Why am I using that idiom for this presentation? Is because when it comes to this information, I am the King of Kings. This presentation is called Bulletproof Part 1. Comedic spirituality versus Christian religion. This is a response to the Shots Fired presentation by my brother, Nobody, from Trust and Believe the Gospel, and my brother, the conscious Christian, Jerome Green. Now, for those who haven't been keeping up, you know we've been having some intellectual sparring with my brothers. We disagree, but we are not disrespectfully disagreeable, but it's just information, and we're gonna get to it. It's not personal, it's all love. However, they fired shots, and now I gotta show them why I'm bulletproof. Before I get into this presentation, let me do my usual welcome. Let me say hotep to all my fellow Kemetic brothers and sisters. Let me say God bless to my Christian brothers and sisters. Let me say shalom to my Hebrew Israelite brothers and sisters. Let me say Islam to my Moorish family out there. Let me say assalamu alaikum to my Muslim brothers and sisters in the NOI. And let me say Jambo to the rest of my black brothers and sisters right here in the wilderness of the United States and abroad. I say that welcome for one reason and one reason only. It's because if you are black, I'm with you, and I hope that you are with me. Our different ideologies are no reason for us not to unify. We can disagree without being disrespectfully disagreeable. And with that, let's get into Bulletproof, Part 1. So this is the preface. In their presentation, Shots Fired Part 1 and Part 2, Nobody from Trust and Believe the Gospel, and the conscious Christian Jerome Green made several accusations against me and the warrior scholar Metu Hotep Jallo. They both asserted that the information I put forth in my presentation in the defense of the Kemetic tradition on Paradigm Shift TV 314 were false or incorrect. Moreover, they asserted the same regarding information Metu Hotep put forth on previous episodes of Paradigm Shift TV 314. While a spirited and at times playful display, they were both in error. So now that the smoke is cleared from the shots they fired, your brother Piankhi Ptah Mutulu, Nefer Amun Ra, is still standing. And when it comes to their shots, I'm clearly bulletproof. In my final rebuttal, appropriately titled Bulletproof Part 1 and Part 2, I compare African/Kemetic spirituality to the Christian tradition. I also point out the many errors made by our Christian brothers as their bullets bounce off me and hit them. Nobody claims to be the scholar killer. Well, I'm about to give him plenty of victims, as I reference and quote many. Jerome made many assertions, all of which I will refute. They claim they want the smoke. Well, be careful what you wish for, my brothers, because I am the smoke. Baptism revisited. Now, I say revisited because I covered this in my last presentation in defense of the Kemetic tradition. Now, you notice I have the Merriam-Webster Dictionary definition of baptism. I'm not going to read the entire definition, but I do have a couple of parts highlighted. Definition 1B, a non-Christian rite using water for ritual purification. An act, experience, or ordeal by which one is purified, sanctified, initiated, or named. So as you can see from the definition, especially definitions 1B and 2, it's clear baptism was a part of life in ancient Kemet. Grand opening, grand closing. Here's the temple complex at Karnak, and here's a quote from one of their scholars, who I'm sure the scholar killer will want to tear down, even though he's one of his own. Interestingly, the Egyptians believed that the god Osiris himself chose whom to baptize. And he chose them by drowning or immersing them in the Nile River. If a person fell into the river and drowned, or was pulled into the river by a crocodile, it was believed that Osiris had specifically chosen this person for some special role in the afterlife. And the person's body was treated as a most holy relic, sacred relic, my bad. Says Jeremy Myers, who has a degree in theology from Moody Bible Institute in Dallas Theological Seminary and has been a full-time Christian ministry for over 20 years. I think that's more time than both Trust and Jerome. Now, of course, he uses words like Egyptian, Osiris, Nile, etc. These are all Hellenized words for our African concepts and places. And while I believe he's wrong in his assertion as to people drowning or being eaten by crocodiles, I'm not going to disagree with the fact that he said baptize. He's one of their scholars. Let's see if the scholar killer rips him apart. Again, here's another picture that I used in my last presentation of a pharaoh being baptized. And another, this time by Jehudi and Harut. And then here's 3,000 years before the Christian baptism. Yet another image used in my In Defense of the Kemetic Tradition presentation. Why the redundancy? To illustrate that I proved my conclusion to be true already, and shots fired was a spirited but weak attempt to challenge what was already solidified. Some people have speculated, probably incorrectly, that the word amen, or amen, used in many of the world's religion relates to the word Amun, who was worshipped at Karnak. Far more likely is the conclusion that the widespread practice of water for ritual purification, remember that definition, may have begun at Karnak's sacred lake almost 3,500 years ago, according to Don Nebel. Now, I submit that I've proven my point ad nauseum, and it's likely that my Christian brothers will continue to be in denial, and that's their right. No sweat to them for defending their faith. But as it pertains to this subject, they fired blanks. See, I proved my point already, family. Baptism isn't exclusive, isn't special, and it isn't something that was created by Christians. Our African ancestors have been doing this for literally centuries before that. Because the means in which they baptize, the reason for which they baptize, has nothing to do with the fact that baptism, as defined by Merriam-Webster Dictionary, was being practiced in Africa before a so-called Hebrew, Israelite, Jewish person ever thought about doing it. Let's continue. The Trinity. Oh, yes. Our brothers are really touched at the idea that there was a Trinity before their two white dudes and a bird became one. So let's talk about it. Again, I'm not going to read the whole definition. I have the part of the definition that I need highlighted. You can read the rest, as you can see my screen. A group of three closely related persons or things. Let me read that again because I want this to sink in for my brothers. Shots fired, but I'm bulletproof. A group of three closely related persons or things. This is the definition of Trinity. Ptah was originally the local deity of Memphis, capital of Egypt, from the first dynasty onward. The political importance of Memphis caused Ptah's cult to expand over the whole of Egypt. With his companion Sekhmet and the youthful god Nefertum, he was one of the Memphite triad of deities. This is from encyclopediabritannica.com. Triad of deities. Is that three? I believe it is. Let's go back to the definition. a group of three closely related persons or things. Here we have a triad of gods. I believe what we have, ladies and gentlemen, is a trinity. Let us continue. This debunks the notion that Kemet didn't have any trinities that consisted of the father, mother, and child concept. In fact, that was the most common trinity in ancient Kemet. The story of Asar, Aset, and Haru is another example that was a fact in Kemet, that this was a fact in Kemet. In Christianity, that deity consists of two dudes and a bird, i.e. the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. In Kemet, each male deity had a female consort, and they in turn had a child. Let's continue. Amun, Ra, and Ptah. Now, my brother Jerome, the Conscious Christian Green, took exception to the fact that I said, or I submitted information that stated Amun, Ra, and Ptah were considered one God. Individual deities, but one God. Sounds familiar. I know it stings. I know it hurts because everybody wants their God to be unique. They want their God to be the end all be all, the most powerful, etc. like that. And that's good. That's fine. You can have that. But in Africa, this was going on way before that was a thing. The leading hymns was written in 1238 BC during the reign of Ramses II. Ramses was born 1303 and died in 1213 at the age of 90. He was known as the most powerful, one of the most powerful and influential pharaohs in Egypt. The leading hymns is a collection of 4 ancient Egyptian poems that give honor to the sun, moon, and other aspects of nature. Well-known author, revered scholar, poet, and Egyptologist John L. Foster would later interpret the text. The leading hymns was written to give reverence to Amun, the god of the air, wind, and fertility, and more so Horus, the hawk-headed sun god. In Egyptian culture, the sun was held to such high esteem because the people believed that the sun was seen as the source of all life on earth. It pretty much is. So in their presentation, Nobody and Jerome asserted that it was asinine for me to assert that Amun, Ra, and Ptah were viewed as a trinity in ancient Kemet. Well, as above, so below, i.e., above I referenced the text that predates their trinity, and below I showed the passage. I think I've demonstrated why I'm bulletproof, but I ain't done. In the layman hymns, Amun, Ra, and Ptah are regarded as a trinity, who are distinct gods, but with unity in plurality. The 3 gods are one, yet the Egyptian elsewhere insist on the separate identity of each of the 3. This unity and plurality is expressed in one text. All gods are 3, Amun, Re, and Ptah, whom none equals. He who hides his name is Amun. He who appears to the face as Ra. His body is Ptah. That being established, it's not difficult to break down this divine triumvirate as representing potentiality in Amun, actualizing through Ra, and creativity through Ptah. Let's talk about Ptah some more. I think I've demonstrated that that there was a trinity in ancient Kemet, both from the aspect of a father, mother, and child, as well as 3 individual deities representing one deity. I think I've demonstrated that it was in the text, not that some scholar came up with this, but that it was in the text. The leading hymns that predate Christianity by who knows how long. I put the dates up, go back, rewind, watch the presentation, you'll see the date. It outdates Christianity by some time. I do this. And I've been saying I do this. Shots fired, but I'm bulletproof, right? Let's continue. Ptah. Our brother Jerome, the conscious Christian Green, asserted that Ptah didn't become a creator deity until the 25th dynasty. Oh, really? This is incorrect, but I admire our brother's confidence while in error. In reality, Ptah was a pre-dynastic god of craftsmen, pottery, and creation. The people of Kemet believe that he created everything from artifacts to the world egg to other deities themselves. The opening of the mouth ceremony was believed to have been devised by him. He was a god of creation and rebirth. But to fully understand how Ptah became so important to Egypt, we have to go way back, even beyond Egypt's first dynasty, around roughly 3100 BCE. This is where Ptah first appears in surviving written records, not as a god of all Egypt, but as a local deity and protector of Memphis. Memphis was the largest and most important city of the kingdom of Lower Egypt when Upper and Lower Egypt were unified. Memphis was the most consistent capital city of the United Kingdom. As such, icons of Memphis grew in importance, and Ptah grew to become revered all across Egypt. He was considered part of the Memphis triad. There's that word again. The three highly revered deities of the capital that included his wife, Sekhmet, and son, Nefertim. Let me say that again. His wife, Sekhmet, and his son, Nefertim. There goes that father, mother, and child thing again. Bulletproof. Let us continue. The appearance of the Judeo-Christian God. Our brothers Nobody and Jerome took exception to the description of God as a big white dude in the sky. Both seemed to wonder out loud where such a conception could arise. Well, contrary to the narrative they told themselves is true, the European has defined their God for longer than its originator ever did. Here are some examples of how they depict that big white dude in the sky. Looks like two white dudes and a bird to me. Dang, God going bald. I guess I shouldn't feel bad, huh? Looks like a big white dude. I'm confused as to why they were confused. But really, when you look at the men whose texts our brothers revere so much, it's not that difficult to see why many feel like God looks like a big white dude in the sky. These are the people who created the text. This is who the people who God came back as. Like when he walked around as a human, wrapped in flesh, etc. This is what he would have looked like. I'm just saying. Let's continue. Recognizing one's own divinity. Our brothers and a lot of people in the Christian community take exception to the fact that those in the conscious community, particularly those who practice Kemetic spirituality, recognize divinity in ourselves. Why, I don't know. But again, I got the definition of God up here from the Merriam-Webster Dictionary. My bad, I spelled Webster wrong. But this is the definition. You can go look it up for yourself, compare and contrast. You will see no difference. Here, as I do, I've highlighted what I need to highlight because I'm not going to read the whole thing. But one controlling a particular aspect or part of reality. No one outside of me controls my reality. My reality. Now they can control their own, but I control mine. If I don't want to go to work, I don't go to work. If as a result I don't get paid, then that's on me. But if I want to get paid, I take my ass to work, right? If I'm hungry, I eat, etc. I control a particular aspect or part of my reality. A personal thing of supreme value. I believe I'm of supreme value. I have other people who I believe are of supreme value. How is it that I can't recognize my own divinity? If these definitions are actually true. I'm just saying. So see, when we get down to these different definitions, just because I can't turn water to wine, which I don't believe was ever done by anybody, or walk on water, again, don't believe it was ever done by anybody, or split a Red Sea, or whatever the case may be, you take any story out of the Bible, just because I can't do those things doesn't mean I can't recognize what's divine within myself. So again, if we're going off dictionary meanings, which our brothers seem to like to do, I can recognize my own divinity with no problem. Let's go. The Ankh versus the cross. This was a huge talking point in part 2 of Shots Fired. But I'm bulletproof. Let's take a look. 300 BCE versus the Common Era. So we know which one is older. But let's talk about the meaning. According to Ancient History Encyclopedia, the Ankh is one of the most recognizable symbols from ancient Egypt. Known as the key of life or the cross of life. And dating back to the earliest dynastic period, 3150 to 2613 BCE. It is a cross with a loop at the top, sometimes ornamented with symbols or decorative flourishes, but most often simply a plain gold cross. The symbol is an Egyptian hieroglyph for life, is the Egyptian symbol or hieroglyph for life or breath of life. As the Egyptians believed that one's earthly journey was only part of an eternal life. So they didn't even originate that eternal life stuff, but that's a whole nother talking point. The Ankh symbolizes both mortal existence and the afterlife. Okay. Now, one of the things that our brother Trust kept harping on was they didn't wear Ankhs like we do now. I had this part highlighted. It is one of the most ancient symbols of Egypt, often seen with the Djed, and was symbols carried by a multitude of Egyptian gods and tombs, paintings, and inscriptions, and worn by Egyptians as an amulet. Let me read that again for my brother Trust. And worn by Egyptians as an amulet. Again, this is Ancient History Encyclopedia. This is not Piankhi Ptah Mutulu, Nefer Amun Ra. And worn by Egyptians as an amulet. Let's go. Bulletproof. By the time of the Old Kingdom, the Ankh was well established as a powerful symbol of eternal life. The dead were referred to as the Aku, or ancestors, having life/living, and caskets and sarcophagi ornamented regularly with the symbol were known as Neb Ankh, possessing life. Let's talk about the cross. Crucifixion was an important method of capital punishment, particularly among the Persians, Seleucids, Carthaginians, and Romans from about the 6th century BCE to the 4th century CE. Constantine the Great, the first Christian emperor, abolished it in the Roman Empire in the early 4th century CE out of veneration for Jesus Christ, the most famous victim of crucifixion. Crucifixion was most frequently used to punish political or religious agitators, pirates, slaves, or those who had no civil rights. In 519 BCE, Darius, the first king of Persia, crucified 3,000 political opponents in Babylon. In 88 BCE, Alexander Genius, the Judean king and high priest, crucified 800 opponents. Pontius Pilate is said to have killed so many Jews by this method that he would eventually be removed from his post. Among his victims is said to be Jesus of Nazareth, whom he is said to have put to death by crucifixion about 32 CE. After the death of Jesus, it was used as a symbol of promise and hope. That being the cross, not crucifixion itself. The act of crucifixion, I should say. The Ankh was a divine symbol and word for life. It has been proven and interpreted by experts in their field. More than that, while we may not do everything our ancient Kemetic counterparts did, our ability to know and understand their language is undeniable. The Ankh is life. To wear it around our neck and on our body is to honor that great culture. The cross, in contrast, was a tool for death and torture. It was used to punish and abuse the guilty and innocent alike. According to the biblical narrative, Jesus was killed in this manner, and that alone is reason to shun its image and use. The fact that Rome did this to everyone and that Jesus was just another one of their victims is even more so. That said, having been a victim of the God delusion, I don't knock others who are still ensconced in such beliefs. Time to compare and contrast. Let's examine why the Kemetic tradition is essentially the best choice for Black African people to follow. Christian ideology. God is the creator of all things, but outside and separate and different from his creation. Example, God created Adam and Eve, then Eve from Adam's rib. Patriarchal society, male dominated. Teaches believers to give in to human desires is the path of wickedness, puts human beings at odds with being spiritual. Because you are cursed, life is supposed to be hard, a sacrifice. Genesis 3:17 through 19, to Adam he said, because you listened to your wife and ate fruit from the tree which I commanded you, you must not eat from. Cursed is the ground because of you. Through painful toil, you will eat from it all the days of your life. And it will produce thorns and thistles for you, and you will eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your brow, you will eat your food until you return to the ground. Since from it you were taken, for dust you are, and to dust you will return. Salvation was being saved from eternal torment in hell. Lack of trust in one's own nature and human nature. Must strive to live up to the perfect example of being something that may not be like you. Causes inner conflict and global discord. Those with the least knowledge and most ignorant were considered the best Christians. The best believers had the least knowledge. Example, Proverbs 3:5, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not to your own understanding. If one cannot trust their own understanding, then who can you trust? The idea that you should have faith and not knowing is still a part of Christianity to this day. Which is why it's always funny when all these smart, intelligent Christian scholars like to puff their chest out and talk about how much work they ready to give out when you can't even trust yourself. You have to trust it anyway. One must set aside his own or her own will to serve the supposed will of God. that may conflict with one's own way of being. This idea can put you at odds with your own authentic way of being if you believe it conflicts with the will of God. An undeveloped sense of self, lack of meaning and purpose in life because you serve God and must sublimate your human yearning to the will of God as Christian being human as an anti-spiritual component. Disconnects reason and logic to accept unreasonable concepts as plausible. Like literally being in the mouth or the belly of a great fish and surviving for 3 days. Or a donkey talking. These are the things that you have to accept in order to believe in the Christian ideology. One must believe you are ostracized and punished unmercifully for eternity. The only religion with an eternal hell. Confusion due to constant conflict in ideology and rules that do not adapt. At odds with science and philosophy of the day, which produce cognitive dissonance. An example, the original people, Adam and Eve, had 2 sons. The world was then populated by 2 men. Later in the same books, Noah's 3 sons repopulate the world. It's nonsensical and completely unrealistic. Now, Ham, Shem, and Japheth, Noah's sons, had wives, but the 3 of them, the 6 of them populate. Let us continue. The fear of death, judgment, hell, and the Antichrist and his causing the end of the world / apocalypse. It's been the end of days, the last days, since Jesus supposedly lived. These got to be the longest last ends of whatever, ever. Like, when is it gonna end? Anyway. Faith and belief as the ultimate stage of conscious development. In actuality, the ancient Africans taught it is the lowest stage of learning and self-development. A certainty without a lack of knowledge is an option that is Christian faith. You simply have to believe what you have been told and have faith without ever checking that the information given is true. The greatest sin of mankind was to eat from the tree of knowledge. Walk with me. The greatest sin of mankind was to eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Gaining knowledge brought on a curse within Christian doctrines. Damn. So I guess he just wanted you to stay ignorant. They say ignorance is bliss. I guess so. Accepted the Greek tradition of a humanized God, made God like a human, angry, jealous, sees you, etc. You know, in the Christian doctrine, God's name is jealous. Being separate and different from the divine, which again is accepted from Greek Gnostic teachings. You must develop a relationship to the divine. It is a conditional relationship based on your belief or non-belief in Jesus Christ as the Son of God. If you don't meet that conditional belief, you are banished to hell for all eternity. Christianity is based on rules one must follow. They become a mechanism for control. Rules work in certain areas of life, but may not work or apply in other areas. For example, in Christianity, God created mankind, but when he created Adam and Eve, he was separate and outside of them. The Christian rule is even though God is different from mankind, he loves mankind. This idea works great in theory because you have a loving God. However, mankind is wicked according to the Christian doctrine. Every intention of the thoughts of man's heart is only evil continually. Because the rule, man is different from God. Christianity sets up and operates with contradictions that individually attack self-esteem. Globally, his followers can attack others that think differently because they are not worthy at some level to exist in their own right. The ideology allows Christians to love God, and in the case of many within the African diaspora, have disdain and loathing for self. Very deep psychological scars developed. The idea that you can be different from the Creator allows one to not respect others' parts of creation. Like other human beings that may believe different, live different, or animals that cause fear, or Mother Earth that sustains us, a loving God that is different has been the means by which we can be punished unmercifully and for eternity. Eternity is a long time. In ancient Kemet and within African spirituality, there is no variant between the divine and its creation. Let us make no mistake that Christianity is African spirituality misunderstood, twisted into ideas that cause confusion and discord. Throughout the original African spiritual system, self-esteem and self-love were a byproduct. Unlike Christianity, where dysfunction and contradiction become the norm. That's not meant to be an attack on Christianity. For me, having grown up in that system of thought and now being outside of it has caused me to recognize the difficulties it causes. My psychological training makes me aware of how the conflict and contradictions negatively affect us on a mental level. But because so many people live it and believe it, the dysfunction has become normalized. Attempting to live a Christian lifestyle is the epitome of contradiction and confusion. I know because I tried my best to live it. African spirituality is uplifting and liberating. In contrast, Christianity is a life filled with fear, mental anguish, and torment for anyone that attempts to stay true to his teaching. Now you have a contrast to the original teachings that became Christianity. And you know, people will say, well, you weren't really a Christian, or you didn't really believe, as if they can read your mind or know what you were actually thinking at the time. I call bullshit. You try to believe it, but your instinct fights against it. Because once you gain knowledge of self, you can no longer believe that donkeys talk and that you can survive in the belly of a large fish, and etc. Let's continue. Bulletproof. Because we need the ability to see something different, to compare and then choose what is best without having the decision made for us. Without contrast, in many cases, there is no meaning. Without the ability to contrast Christianity to something else, then it becomes the norm. As a Christian, contradiction and confusion become normal ways of operating in life and is even seen as proof of reaching a higher spiritual level because you are getting closer to a God which you cannot understand. Ignorance becomes the measuring stick for your level of spiritual development. Ignorance is bliss. The Kemetic ideology. Consciousness is prima materia. It is all, the one. There's always a balance of masculine and feminine archetypes. Out of the one comes all. From our moon comes the great Ennead, the 9 universal principles of nature, or nature, who are the one, which means an aspect of a moon is in all of creation. Salvation has the ability of the soul to live another life, reincarnation, which means there was no fearful dogmatic idea of an eternal hell and torment. Matriarchal society, nurturing, male and female. If you're reading this, you are saved because you are alive. Right here, right now. You ain't got to worry about the by and by and what's going to happen when you die, because what you do right now is what matters. Trust in your own inner wisdom, not in some other people's gospel, which recognizes that body and soul are simply different frequencies of the same vibration, substance, always connected. No such thing as spiritual and secular. The only difference is vibrational frequency. The all is an expression of the one. You are the physical expression of the source in a human form, not different from the all. Within African spirituality, developing your divine gifts on a daily basis will enable you to live through a state of joy, peace, and contentment. Knowing the universe conspires to work in your favor because you and it are the same. The only system of ancient or modern world that is coherent, comprehensive, consistent, logical, rational, and intuitive. It has incorporated both hemispheres of the brain in development and its language, art, philosophy, science, and culture. Taught that wisdom is the highest level of learning. Wisdom is defined as the inner contemplation of knowledge. Wisdom is a revelation and never something taught to you. It comes from within your own well of inspiration and connection to the source. Within African spirituality, clarity and consistency is based on principles, what we now call universal laws, that are the basis of all phenomenon in the universe. Science, theology, and cosmology are all connected and work in concert, not at odds with each other as it does with Christianity. Within African spirituality, before the dynastic era, no concept of death and judgment existed. All phenomena and events are cyclical. Example, plant dies and is reborn the next spring. So as plants are reborn, humans follow the same pattern as nature. You live many lives. The soul is real. The physical body is a transitionary experience. What is born can die. The soul is not born. It is eternal. Time is an illusion. They believed only in the eternal now. Within African spirituality, wisdom was the ultimate stage of conscious development, the highest stage of learning and self-development. Wisdom arises from the inner contemplation of knowledge. The inner avenue to wisdom was symbolized by the feminine neter, ma'at. Enlightenment was highly valued in the Kemetic wisdom system, unlike Christianity, that preferred the unlearned and ignorant so they could believe without ever questioning those in power and authority. Anthropomorphized the idea of what the creator was like. Ancient Africans would use human characteristics or natural symbols to express abstract metaphysical concepts and archetypes. The womb of a pregnant woman became the representation of pre-creation, i.e. inside the mind of the all, dark water, etc. God was not human at all, but human characteristics were used to help with understanding the aspect of the universe and how it functions. Within African spirituality, you are divine, and life is about gaining the wisdom to recognize your own divinity and power to create. All that you do as a soul in human form is learning and developing your divinity. No separation between spiritual and secular. No such thing as being sinful. You cannot ever be divine, double negative intended. You are the source clothed in human form. In ancient Kemet and within African spirituality, there is no difference between God and his creation. All of their philosophy, science, theology, art, etc. is based on the idea that everything in the universe is the same as God, only a different aspect of it. They taught that everything that we experience comes from the spiritual world. This principle never changes. ever. This is true monotheism. There were no devils in African spirituality. Only contrast is a universal law. This was due to the belief that experience can only occur through contrast. It's analogous to trying to clap with one hand. You need the other hand in order to make the sound, the experience. The other hand is not evil or the devil. It is a necessary component of experience. The esoteric way to express this idea is the universal law of duality. Its ancient African origins, horns became the natural symbolic expressions of the esoteric principle of duality or separation. In conclusion, I challenge nobody and a conscious Christian to a formal debate. What's better for our people, African spirituality or Christianity? To me, Christianity has become twisted into ideas that cause confusion and discord. The African spiritual system promotes self-esteem and self-love. The Christian text is filled with dysfunction and contradiction and has become the norm. That's not meant to be an attack on Christianity. For me, having been in that system and now being outside of it, I recognize the difficulties it caused. My comedic training makes me aware of how the conflict and contradictions negatively affect us on a mental level. This is redundant from a slide above, but I want to reiterate this. But because so many people live and believe in the dysfunction, it has become normalized. Attempting to live a Christian lifestyle is the epitome of contradiction and confusion. I know because I tried it. And some people will and have said, no, you were never a Christian, as if they were in my mind and know what I believed. African spirituality is uplifting, liberating, in contrast, Christianity is a life filled with fear, mental anguish, and torment for anyone who attempts to stay true to his teaching. I have given a real contrast between the two traditions. Nobody in a conscious Christian fired shots, but I was clearly bulletproof. Now the challenge has been issued for a formal debate. Will they accept or try for more failed shot attempts? The ball is in their court. Misinformation is the enemy of knowledge. Honor your ancestors. Hotel. Coming soon, Makaru TV 314. For those of you who don't know what Makaru means, it means true of voice or true of speech. That's an ancient Kemetic term. This will be a channel dedicated exclusively to Kemetic/African spirituality. Be on the lookout for that. We're looking to launch pretty soon. We're going to be teaching and edifying the people about ancient Kemetic spirituality, concepts and culture, as well as history, as well as African spirituality, concepts, history, and culture. So be looking for that. Makaru TV 314. Also coming soon, Is This Your King? A deep dive and online lecture on why Black African people need to leave white Jesus in the past. Yeah, we're going to deal with that. So this has been your brother, Nkosi Yamakosi, Piankhi Ptah Mutulu, Neferamon Ra. This has been Paradigm Shift TV 314. I hope you learned something. I hope you found out that your boy is bulletproof when it comes to this knowledge. I hope you found out that your boy is Nkosi Yamakosi, King of Kings, when it comes to this information. And while others may fire shots, they bounce off me and hit them. Because your boy bulletproof. I do this. So let's see what happens when our homeboys, our brothers, the scholar killer, nobody from Trust and Believe the Gospel, the conscious Christian Jerome Green. Let's see what happens when they answer the call. When they step up to debate, they say they want the smoke. Well, I am the smoke. Let's get it. Let's put it all on the table and let's see what's what. Let's see what's best for the people. Paradigm Shift TV 314. Honor your ancestors. Hotel. This presentation has been brought to you by Piankhi Ptah Mutulu, Neferamon Ra, And as a Paradigm Shift TV 314 production, special dua to Elder Saber, Mariam Seneferu, Queen Mother Eni Teray, Aset, Akua, Kitty Haru, and Elder Rennie Unk Makaru of the Temple of Heteru, as well as every member of the temple. Also special dua to the warrior scholar Metu Hotep Jallo, the God Slayer and voice of the streets, King Nasu, Mr. Black Power, King Osa, and last but certainly not least, my brother, Nuri Shabaka Ursa Ma'at Ra. And despite our differences, thanks to my brothers, the Scholar Slayer, Nobody from Trust and Believe the Gospel, and Jerome, the Conscious Christian Green. Hashtag Bulletproof.
Where we going with it? Now where we going with it? Where we going with it? What? Where we going with it? Yo, where we going with it? Where we going? Going back to Kemet, styling, profiling. It's been a long time. How many years? About 3,000. Man, we got to bring it back. The days and times of living is getting whack. I'm going back to Kemet, styling, profiling. It's been a long time. How many years? About 3,000. Man, we got to bring it back. The days and times of living is getting whack. I seen kingdoms come and I seen kingdoms fall. You could check it for yourself, you could read it on the wall. Like graffiti on the wall, metal nets is what it's called. I taught y'all in the past, now I'm back to teach you all how to elevate and repent from filthy ways. I know it's hard, but it feels good to fast for 30 days. I got y'all searching for the land that's across the burning sands, where the men turn into gods and the gods turn into men. The jewel of the Nile is in the motherland. Each one teach one, so go tell your brother, man. You're feeling down, then you got to snap back like a rubber band. Lord, going back to Kemet, styling, profiling. It's been a long time. How many years? About 3,000. Man, we got to bring it back. The days and times of living is getting whack. I'm going back to Kemet, styling, profiling. It's been a long time. How many years? About 3,000. Man, we got to bring it back. The days and times of living is getting whack. Hey. All the words I chant when I come forth by day. From the night, these sacred chapters I recite. Do my voodoo every day till I feel some things are right. Speaking in words of power, speakers get blown. Ancient tradition, deep in your bones. Ancient wisdom, speaking in poems. Melodies take you deep in the zone. I'm going back to Kemet, styling, profiling. It's been a long time. How many years? About 3,000. Man, we got to bring it back. The days and times of living is getting whack. I'm going back to Kemet, styling, profiling. It's been a long time. How many years? About 3,000. Man, we got to bring it back. The days and times of living is getting whack. Too many youth wanna ride and die. I try to tell them about the I and I. In my presence, I got y'all feeling divine essence. I come through dropping jewels that's full of timeless lessons. Not Egyptian, I'm comedic, spitting poetic relics from the highest mind. Look to the skies to find where I am headed. I come when I be spitting, y'all be playing, hating me. I don't know, probably cause I'm serious like A and B. And see, we alike sometimes more than we would like. I got the gift of gab, I was born to speak on mics. Got raw in me glowing, now I shine like skies in Cali. I represent the hood and that hood is the Nile Valley. They call it Hoppy, the illest of the niggas. Nah, that's not me, I'm that golly representative. Spit the hottest sentences with the eye for rule. I see the evil that lurks in you. I live by 10 virtues that stops me from hurting you. I use oracles, so nowadays I plan better. Now I walk in the presence of God's angels and ancestors. Walking my path, speaking in code, talking in math. I got an inner divinity, mental serenity. I walk in my eye, even on my path alone. And in any zone, man, I got heart like Indiana Jones. I'm not a raider, but a raiser of the lost ark, the monarch of a righteous covenant. You ain't liking it, you loving it. I show y'all sacred ways from the ancient of days. The metaphysical master manifesting the greatest displays of might control. Connect the spirit, mind, and the soul. I rhyme with flows that opens up your mind so you grow like the trees, but of course not the kind that you smoke, but the kind that keeps you rooted in tradition. I bring it back like how it was in the beginning. back to Kemet, styling, profiling. It's been a long time.
How many years?
About 3,000. Man, we got to bring it back. The dates and times of living is getting whack. I'm going back to Kemet, styling, profiling. It's been a long time.
How many years?
About 3,000. Man, we got to bring it back. The dates and times of living is getting whack.